get better at organizing your garden, whether it be planning ahead of time before you get your plants in the ground, or knowing how to keep it organized as you're putting plants in the ground, trying to keep track of when you put things in the ground, when you started them from seed indoors, when you transplanted, when you harvested, all those things that can seem really annoying at the time to try to keep track of. This video is to show you my system that I've used, that I have found it's been really easy to maintain, doesn't feel overwhelming, and has been super, super helpful to refer back to as the season has gone on. Hi, my name's Landon Gilfillan at Pepper and Pine Garden Design, and I just want to share a short video showing you how I have organized my garden this year in particular, how it's really helped me to get a handle on when I've transplanted things, when I've sown things, so that I can have a better view of what I want to do next year, what I want to do the same, what I want to do differently, what worked and what didn't work. It's really important to keep good garden records because your brain is just not going to serve you the way you want it to when push comes to shove. So having that down on paper or on your computer or on your phone, some way, shape, or form, is going to be really helpful for you to look back on and decide what's the best thing for you to do in your garden. Maybe you planted too many potatoes this year or not enough tomatoes, depending on what you're using them for, whether you're preserving them or just eating them fresh. It's really great to have a record of those things that you know exactly or thereabouts how many plants you want to do next year, if you want to put them in the same place or a different place, if you want to have a different companion planting than you did this year, or even just try companion planting for the first time. Keeping good record of all these things will really, really, really set you up for success for the following year and the following year and the following year. So let me show you what I've done that's really helped me organize this year. Okay, so the best thing that I have done is whenever I sow seeds, whether in my house or outdoors, I immediately take a picture. My garden cats always want to be right where I am doing what I'm doing, knocking over my camera. I take a picture with my phone of the seed tray with the little seed labels so I know exactly what I planted where, because I'm gonna forget at some point or another, and the date is on my phone. So all I have to do is flip back and say, when did I start those plants and which cell did I put them in? And I have a perfect picture that will tell me everything I need to know. So I do that with every seed tray I start. If I start seeds in the ground, that's obviously a little bit harder to notate on a phone. So I just make sure and write it down in my garden journal. So I have a devoted garden journal. If you were to look through here, it would probably be completely nonsensical to you, but it makes sense to me. And I just date everything that I write down in here. So for example, if on May 29th, I sowed tomato seeds, I just jot it down really quick, May 29th, back row of garden, Tigerella tomato seeds, or whatever it may be. And then later on, I come back when I've planted and sown the majority of my seeds, I'll go through my camera, I'll find all my pictures, and I'll sit here and I'll note, and I make sure I have enough pages to write it all down. I'll write seeds sown, and I'll just go through and try to put it in order, all the seeds that I've sown over the various dates. So that I have a really good record. And I do the same thing when I transplant things. So I've started seeds in my house, and then whenever I transplant them to the garden, I have a different notation for that. So I can remember how many weeks did I wait to transplant out my pepper plants, or how many weeks did I wait to transplant out my kale plants? Because maybe that year they didn't do very good. Maybe I transplanted them too late, or maybe I transplanted them too early. But regardless of what it is, I have it all down here in my notes. And obviously when I'm making videos and trying to tell you when I've planted things and when I've transplanted things, I want to be able to give you guys a really good idea of the date range I've used, and then I can go back and assess whether that was a good date or a bad date, or how I need to adjust moving forward. So keeping those records on my phone has been super helpful, but what really counts is when I can come back and take all that data from my phone or my notebook and put it all in one place on 2 or 3 pages, and I make sure and put the date of the year so I know which year it was. And it's just really, really handy to reflect back on when I started things and when I put them in the ground. Additionally, I like to have a really nice laid out chart of where everything is in my garden, but this is always kind of a working map. So what I have found works is I draw this out. I have my garden beds lined out how they are in my garden, and then I always do it in pencil because something inevitably is going to change because it dies, or I harvest it, or I end up swapping something out last minute. So I always do it in pencil, and as much as I can, I try to update it as I'm putting things in the ground, because I will forget, oh, that's right, I planted those marigolds there, or I put those nasturtium seeds. I'm going to forget that I put them in the ground if I'm not really agile and writing it down. Sometimes I'll just use my little notebook here because I always have it with me in the garden. I'll just jot it down with a pencil while I'm out here where I put things. And then I'll take this inside and transfer it to my final copy. And the other thing I like to do is I like to keep it in this plastic protector here, because if I have this outside in the garden, it's going to get dirty. If there's water involved, it's going to get wet. If it's in my house, it's going to get wrinkled. So this is a really great way to keep this protected. I can bring it out to the garden with me if I'm needing to like understand where I put things and why, if I'm planting something. I just cannot rely on my brain. So having this system has been really helpful for me, for even planning out this season as I go. Because I'm transplanting things at different times, I can go right to my chart. I can see where I've got space. I can see if what's planted there is going to grow well with whatever it is I'm needing to plant now. And then obviously to be able to refer back to in the following year as if that worked or if it didn't work. And the other thing I want to emphasize is really being, when you're taking your notes, to really be specific in the varieties that you're growing, because you might end up not really enjoying a certain variety or falling in love with a certain variety. And if you didn't take good notes, you're going to be sad at the end of the season when you've forgotten what that specific variety is. Because if you're like me, your seed packets a lot of times get torn up. The words are, rubbed off. Maybe you have seeds that you saved from a previous year and the seed packet doesn't really give you any information. So if you have it written down somewhere or typed out, that's going to help you to refer back so you know exactly which variety you liked, which you didn't, and again, where you placed it in the garden and why. So write down the specific varieties somewhere so that you have that to refer back to, so you're not relying on your memory or on those seed packets, which once again will only last for so long. Keeping really good garden notes is super helpful. And I know it can be really tedious. I know there's some people that love it and some people that hate it. And I kind of fall right in the middle of that. So I've worked really hard this year to be a really good planner. A big part of that's for me and the goals that we have here with this farm, trying to produce a lot of food, eventually wanting to have a farmer's market stand. So I really need to be able to have a good understanding of what worked and what didn't and how many plants I need to grow. And then obviously to be able to share that information with you, so that you can grow your garden and have a good reference point for what might work for you, especially if you're in Southwest Michigan. So notebook, keep everything written down, carry it with you wherever you go. Always have a pencil on hand. It's really going to serve you well. And then just take an hour, one day a week or whatever it is, to transfer it into your final copy. And it will really serve you well to keep your garden organized, keep you from doing all the guesswork and forgetting things, because you will. And I promise you, it'll help you become a better gardener over the years to come and have a more successful garden. So I hope this has been helpful to you. If so, I encourage you to subscribe to the channel and to share this video with someone you think it might be helpful to. And as always, my name is Landon Gilfillan here at Pepper and Pine Garden Design, growing gardeners and their gardens. And I'll see you in the next video.